Rachel Burson is a puppet builder, puppet wrangler, and the current president of the Los Angeles Guild of Puppetry. She's built puppets for Yankers, Waffles and Mochi, and The Barbarian and the Troll. In part 1 of the Swazzle Lunch Break, Sean talked to Rachel about the steps that she took to become a professional puppet builder. He started the conversation off asking her to share some information about the Los Angeles Guild of Puppetry.
So, we've been around since like 1956. We're one of the oldest chartered guilds in the U.S., actually. We do live underneath the umbrella of the Puppeteers of America, and we are a very active guild. We have like over 150 members, which is a crazy number for a puppetry guild. We're very much a community organization, and we're very much a great way for people to get introduced to the community and grow that way, because that's how I started my career. Was that like I moved to LA and I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to get involved. And then I had heard about a puppet slam happening. And so I went to the puppet slam and I met Christine Papalexis, who's an amazing like builder, longtime person in the community. I said, because I come from theater. So I was like, hey, do you need help? And she was like, yeah, do you want to run concessions? And yeah, do you want to do the videography? And I was like, sure. And so I kind of got sucked in that way. And then I just got more and more involved. And then I joined the board. And then I was the director at large for 2 years. And then our president, Adrian, had to step down because it was like a 6-year limit. And everyone like just looked at me and they were like, you gonna be president? And I'm like, I've been on the board for 2 years. And they're like, it counts, do it. So I ran unopposed. So now it's been 2 years now.
Tell everybody, like, what does it mean to be a member of the guild? What do you guys do? And also, how are you keeping this program going when we can't get out and do so much?
Right. Like, we're very much a like workshops and events based group, just because, with LA, like there's always got to be something to do. And because it's so expensive to rent space on a normal time, it has to be like an event for us to really get together. So we do like building workshops, and we've done like movie nights, and we've done screenings, and we do like 3 puppet slams a year. We like work with the Puppet Slam Network with all that kind of stuff. So, we just try to give back to the community as much as possible. And we're always happy to get some back, because it takes a kind of a special person to really want to get involved in all this, because it's a lot going on. But since the pandemic happened, everything went virtual. So now our membership has grown nationally and internationally, which is crazy. We've been able to do virtual puppet slams and virtual events, and we've been working a lot with like an inclusion and diversity group that we like subcommittee that we've started. So we've been like reading books about this sort of stuff. We're trying to work more through compassion and finding a way to kind of open our doors, but also because, you can say, hey, we're open, come be with us, but sometimes you have to walk through your own door and like grab people's hands and say, hey, come be with us. Like, we need you. So it's been a lot of us relearning kind of how to approach our membership, because a lot of us, we're very commercial in that kind of way, because it's LA,
Sure.
So we're trying to find that personable side that other guilds have in smaller areas.
One of the reasons why I feel like joining your local guild is essential in developing a career in puppetry, even if you're just a novice. Let's say you're not doing this as a career, but you're doing this because it's an interest, it's a hobby of yours. The puppetry community is a very small community. It's a very close-knit community. Mm-hmm. Having that social interaction with fellow puppeteers, people who are either working professionals or they are interested on more like a hobby level, like you are. It's such a great way to meet those people that are in this small, close-knit community.
Well, yeah, it's just that's the thing. It's like, it goes back to networking, and that's really a thing that the guild can provide, because it does it takes away the like scariness of meeting somebody, because you're all in the same place for the same reason. You all like puppets, so it's a guarantee that you can find middle ground with people, and you can actually connect with them and like start to get to know them and build those friendships and those things that will lead to new jobs. Like I got lucky with you guys by sending you a cold email, and it actually worked. Yeah. They work, people, sometimes, but that was a shot in the dark.
Well, it worked.
You're
the one, you got through. No. I just want to share a little experience. When Patrick and I joined our guild,
yeah.
We were in San Leandro at the time, Northern California. We went to a puppet show at the San Leandro Library that Randall Metz, who is a puppeteer in the Bay Area, worked at Children's Fairyland. He was doing the show. And we were the ones that went backstage and said, like, oh, can you show us how this works? He's like, actually, there's a guild meeting happening this weekend. Why don't you come to the guild meeting? So we went there, and that's when we met some of the puppeteers that really influenced our puppet building. They encouraged us to go to a national festival, which happened to be in San Francisco that year.
Yeah.
And then boom, we were kind of off to the races. So I love that you're involved in the LA Guild. I would encourage anyone watching this to join. It helps the general puppeteer community. And also you can be part of this community and give back in some ways or learn. And it's a great networking opportunity. So
yeah, it's been great. I mean, gosh, we even like inspired like Bristol over in UK. Now they do their own puppet film festival, and they're like we like what you're doing. Can we do it in the UK? And we're like, yeah, please go. So it's even growing beyond us, which is what's even cooler.
Now I would love to hear a little bit about you as a puppet builder. Do you design your own characters, or are you given designs? It's sort of a mix, right? But how about when you got started? Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, like I was completely self-taught. Well, I bought the phone book, which by Drew Allison, and I always forget the other guy's name.
Gray Seal Puppets.
Yes, yes, and they're great. It's a great starter book. It was like $40, So I used that book, but that book was tricky because they would put little patterns in there, and they'd be like, oh, so you could do a pattern like this. And they literally wrote in the book, and they're like, oh, what? You thought we were going to make this big size so that you could do it yourself? They're like, no, you've got to figure that out. And so you were just like, what do you mean? So, I bought a book and I sat on it for like a year. I was too scared to build. I was like so intimidated by the process. And I was like, oh, because I went to school for stage management, everybody. I didn't even start in puppetry. And I was like, I can't do this creative. I can't do that.
And that's actually the first job you did for us was stage managing our tour of the Little Prince.
But so like, I just started building by myself, but it was all my own designs, because I've always doodled, but you don't really think that those can transfer into something 3D until you actually start getting into it. So it was all my own designs. And then, once commissions come around, then you just do your best to create the work that's given to you, or they commission you because they like your aesthetic. So I don't know. Yeah. So my aesthetic is very cute, but like, it's very much a chameleon sort of thing. Cause you've got to be able to mold your aesthetic to appease the people that you're building for, or yourself, it kind of flits around.
The first thing that I was sort of aware of was you had this sort of purple, like a little purple vampire character.
Yeah.
Hey,
this guy right here.
There it is. So that was the first puppet that I had seen that you made, and what it showed me is that you had a proficiency in puppet building and puppet design, and also you had a style. I feel like that's really essential to have something that you bring to the table. So can you tell us a little bit about your influences and your design aesthetic?
I was a huge anime kid. I grew up reading manga and anime. That's like, that was my outlet. And that's what, me and like my two best friends growing up, we would just draw. We would just draw and watch different animes and all that kind of stuff. So like, the big eyes, the cute proportions, all that kind of stuff. It's just ingrained into my brain because, I grew up with Pokemon my whole life and all that kind of stuff. So that's really probably the biggest influence I have. Like, the first puppet I built was Midna from Legend of Zelda because I was going to an anime convention. That's why I built her. Right. So I guess that's kind of probably the biggest example that I have.
It makes sense. You know what? It's a perfect example of this, which is puppetry is an art form that can have influences from everywhere. You can be influenced by anime, you can be influenced by the natural world, you can be influenced by music, or by things like think of something like Lion King and the influences in there, right? International influences and all that. So I think it's cool. Like, it almost doesn't really matter what your influences are, because that will inform what your art looks like as a puppet builder. I've been in puppetry for a long time. I've been in puppetry for 20 years or so. I mean, I started when I was 13, but like professionally, right? 20 years. And people would say, man, puppets are really in right now. Puppets are really in. But I would say, as far as puppets that you've had your hand on, puppets are in for you right now. So let's just talk about some of your current projects. So Waffles and Mochi, right? That you worked on in our shop, built waffles, right?
Yeah. Like 5 of them.
Like 5 waffles. Now streaming on Netflix. Barbarian and the Troll, right?
Yeah.
Built puppets for Barbarian the Troll.
Yeah.
So that, and then and then Crank Yankers, which
Yeah.
is more episodes coming
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is a bit of a moment for you.
I never ever in a million years thought that I could be in this kind of position. And I'll tell you that, but yeah, I think the renaissance is happening right now. It's now they're popular. So it's like they're sprinting along with it while it's still cool.
How do you move from from where you started to where you are? What are some specific steps that you think you took and other people could take to make this happen?
The weird thing about my career, I think, is that my career has been a career of side doors, is kind of what I say, because I've never had like a direct path to get anywhere. Because I went to school for stage management and, have that technical background. And I think that that's really helped me. It's helped me get in the room, which is the hardest thing to do, because it gives people, because, it's hard to just present yourself and be like, I'm a builder, hire me, and they're like, whoa, who are you? So by using those technical skills, I was able to get in the room and be like, hey, what's going on? Like with working at the Creature Shop, I started because I was working as a stagehand for Puppet Up.
Right.
That's how I met everybody, and that's how I got to know everybody. And like, that's how I kind of weaseled my way in, basically. But like, it's all just about like networking and like growing your skill, because, like I was feeding my freelance puppet building with freelance PA work on TV and film. So, I was working 12 hours a day, but then I was going home and then I was still building for fun. And just because I knew I had to keep building to get better, because, you can attest to this, like there's no way to lie about being a good builder. Like eventually someone's going to check it and be like, I don't know. Like, you've got to be up to snuff for that kind of thing. There's no shortcuts with that kind of thing. So it was really just like putting in the hours and hustle, and living in Los Angeles, I think, is what helped jumpstart everything that I do. And I hate being like, oh, it's location, 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 but it kind of is, because, I'm here and here's where the work is for me right now.
And where were you starting from? Where did you?
Yeah, I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, so I was in Ohio, where there's like a little bit of puppetry and a little bit of film and TV, but I wanted more
really
of
good
both.
and really chili.
And it was really, yes. Oh, I miss Skyline chili so much. I miss it every day.
You can order it online.
I can, but I think that was the smartest move I made, was moving to where the work is, because the thing is that, yes, the work can come to you, but there's no guarantee of that. You really need to be where it is.
And how do you choose? It seems like there's a few centers of puppet work, right? It seems like, obviously a lot of puppeteers are working in Canada this year. It seems like every time I see a lot of puppeteers working in Canada, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I know Barbarian the Troll was shot there. And then, obviously LA is a hub for TV, theater work, and also TV in New York. Then a lot of stuff happening in Georgia around the Center for Puppetry Arts, and then like England. Like those seem to be the main kind of puppetry hubs. How did you decide that Los Angeles was the place to go?
Well, Atlanta's too humid, and New York was way too expensive. And LA, I had lived in Sacramento for 10 months at an internship up there, and I was like, wow, I really like the California weather. And there I was like, it was hot. Sacramento was hot, but I was like, you know what, I think I could do this. And I was working in TV and film, and I was working in, and then getting in puppetry, and all of that was in LA, because like New York is a lot of theatrical, so was Atlanta. I was like, I really need to go. And also because my little production brain was like, where's the money? And in my mind, that's LA was where the money was, so that's where I went. It's not very romantic, but it's it's what helped like made my decision.
Location, obviously, but it's joining that guild, getting into that community. Because even what I heard you just say, like the first time that we worked together, it was in the stage management thing. And then once you're saying, hey, I'm stage managing the show, by the way, let me show you this puppet that I made. Oh, you build? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And then that kind of gets filed away, and then we go, we need some builders for this project. Hey, we should bring Rachel in. And I remember in 2019 was a very full year at our company with you, pretty much full time. That yellow puppet that we posted up on the Instagram to kind of tease this talk was the first puppet that you made from start to finish.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you started making that puppet for, an online client. It was a rental. And then you made Bircham for Crank Yankers. from start to finish. So if anyone has seen the new season 5 of Crank Yankers, Rachel made Bertram, which is the Adam Carolla voice character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole different experience, which you can talk about. The idea of saying, like, not only are you making a specific design, but this puppet already existed. And we got to make it look like that puppet. So tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, you know what, you remember it was wild because all the heads were carved. And they were like, oh yeah, can you pattern these? And we're like, they're just carved foam. So
originally, yeah, we should say the original. A lot of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And we were choosing to make them patterned, mostly because we could replicate them as needed a lot easier when we have a pattern.
Yeah, the idea of lifting patterns and like using the muslin and like knowing that whatever you make still isn't going to be right, but it's going to be closer than what you were guessing is like super strange. And it's just about like honing in and honing in and honing in. And then, like custom making his like glasses out of wood, which like I've never done before, and like sanding them for my life so that they could look like pretty plastic. And like, it used a part of my brain that I'd never needed to use before, because yes, you can make things from a drawing, but you can still have like a sort of like a leniency on like what curve and shape does what, because you can't ever perfectly replicate something.
Yeah, it's you go from 2D to 3D, you're interpreting.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you go from 3D to 3D, it's like
you have the exact proportions of everything you need, and you're like, oh, this little curve here is just a little bit not curvy enough, and you have to go back in there and you have to fix it. It was a lot of patience for rebuilding those guys.
How long does it take to make a puppet?
I think a nice puppet with a lot of good communication takes like 3 weeks, to a month. That's how I feel about that. That's just me.
We say 3 to 4 weeks. Yep. And a lot of times when you do client work, we say, we'll move as fast as you move. Because if you're like going to sit on it, not give notes, then we're going, okay, I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that we're pushing in if you're not going to give the notes. But I would say a good puppet takes about 3 weeks to build. I think that's a lot of people don't necessarily understand. When you see a puppet all done, you go, oh, that's cool. And maybe it looks easy, but it actually is a lot of time involved.
Yeah, it was just step on step, and you're like, oh, well, I got to do this part. Oh, but I have to do that first. Oh, but to do that, I have to do this. And to do that, I have to do this, and you're just like, wait, because like with Crank, I'm building incredibly fast and like making sure that I have like a streamlined set of like, I do this and then I do this and then I do this. It's been a lifesaver, because if I didn't have a list, I'd flounder.
Join us for part 2 of our conversation with Rachel Burson, where she'll share some very helpful puppet building tips and tricks, and we'll answer the question, does a puppet builder also need to be a puppeteer? Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Swazzle Lunch Break.